The LCS regular season is over. Cloud9 cinches the first place after beating Flyquest back-to-back. 100 Thieves finishes a miracle run to somehow go from 8th place to 3rd place. And Team Liquid, the Korean super team with a literal world champion, actually more than one, fails to make playoffs. But could they have potentially made themselves look decent for the next split? We'll have to see, and we're going to be discussing all of that in today's episode of The Gold Advantage. Welcome, I'm your host Nikita, and with me, as always, is Mr. B&B. How are you doing?
Let's go. I mean, I think, what's funny is on such a fun weekend like the one we just had, where so much happened, you kind of ended it where I wanted to start, which is Team Liquid. This is a team to me that had such a horrific start to the season, but now they're if they were a team in playoffs, I would give them a legitimate chance to make it to. I'm not gonna say that they're gonna win. I don't think they're the best team, but this is a team that's now a top 4 team to me, unquestionably, and I would put them in like the top 3 probably.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, I think this Team Liquid team is like. Sometimes you see this, right? Teams have to gel. They need time to like get familiar with each other. Just because you have the best players in the world, right, or arguably the best players in the world, doesn't mean you're going to immediately snap and click into place. We saw it last year with Vitality, right? This is something that we've seen routinely over and over. This Team Liquid team, they need to show me a little bit more, but they're beating all the teams that they should be beating. Based off the way Flyquest is playing, they'd probably beat Flyquest again. What's your perspective on this Team Liquid team?
I think they're starting to find their groove. Yep. They've talked about it. I think CoreJJ just did an interview, and Piosik did one earlier that split, and they just said that their anticipation, they thought, okay, we'll have a problem communicating, so we'll build a Korean roster, and that once we solve that, we'll be okay. Actually, they had quite a few playstyle issues that they have been working through, and it's just been, I think, an unexpected hurdle for them. I struggle still with Harry in the mid lane particularly. I think Eon is okay as an AD carry, but that's the problem. Is I'm not sure that their AD carry is that good, and I don't think their mid laner is that good. I was a bit surprised at your enthusiasm for this. Yep. I went back and, they beat Golden Guardians, so it's like, yes, that's good. But
well, we need to talk about Golden Guardians in a minute.
Then they lose to TSM. They beat Flyquest, lose to Cloud9, beat Dignitas, lose to CLG, BDG. So it's this back and forth that they basically had of beating some teams, losing to others. I'm not going to worry about the rankings of the teams, like losing Cloud9, yes, beating Flyquest, good. I don't know. I do think that they are probably good enough to be a playoff team and knock out Golden Guardians.
Look, to your point, is this the EG team of the first half of the season? No. Is this the Golden Guardians team of the first half of the season? No. Is this the Flyquest team of the first half of the season? No. And I'm sure we'll get into all 3 of them in short order. Yeah. But you still have to win the games that are in front of you, right? And it's not like these guys don't have players on their team. It's still signs of strength when they started off so bleak. And I expect them to kind of solve some of those very issues that you just mentioned and that CoreJJ mentioned, especially when they're going to have a prolonged offseason now. Like, they'll have some time to work on it, and hopefully they spend it in a productive manner.
And I like that take. I don't know if I'm ready to put them in top 3, top 4, but I am willing to say, hey, I think they're a top 6 team. And I am excited from everything we talked about prior to the podcast and so on. It's like, yeah, actually, I wonder how they are going to do next split. And it does look like they are a slow and steady ship that is just on this upward trajectory. We'll have to see where it goes. Another team, massive upward trajectory, is 100 Thieves. They were 1-7, 8th place. Made a coaching change. Both of us were pretty strong in our opinions that it wasn't enough and that it's time to bring in Unforgiven. Yeah, but it turned it around.
Shows what
I still think probably Unforgiven's better than Double Lift, so I don't really necessarily have an issue with that. But, nonetheless, they managed to turn this around. They steal, and it is a steal. Like, I didn't even mean to make the pun of the heist, but it 100% was a heist of 3rd place.
Totally. Absolutely was. Whoops. Kind of missed on the guess what? I guess it was a coaching change. Now, to be fair, right? Sometimes that's what you need. You just need a new voice in your ear. You just need a new perspective on what you're doing. It's clearly paid dividends. Unbelievable performance for them. Last 5 games, win streak, 3rd place, going up in a winner's bracket, and so we'll see what they can do. I mean, what's indicative of it is not just a 5-game win streak. It's actually a 7-game win streak because they're not even considering, or they're not taking into account the EG and the CLG tiebreakers. So
Tiebreakers.
That is a formidable performance.
Those tiebreakers are the perfect
litmus test.
Are you the team that can handily beat the teams below you? I think 100%. They did it. So now if they lose to this first team, Flyquest, that's fine. They drop down to low bracket. They should feel confident to go through the rest of the bracket. I think that kind of brings us to EG, who looked like they had things together. And then the past 2 or so weeks have been atrocious. And I will actually point out, it's not so much the players, it's much more the drafting.
Yeah.
Like, they are drafting the worst comps.
Well, that's a coaching issue.
It seems like that is the issue, because they don't have a handle on how to build a team at the moment. At the same time, I don't know how much of it I can pin on the individual players when you're handicapping them so much.
The players have to know what they're doing, though, too, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So it's not like they're just like sitting there like with their hands tied behind their head or their body and not having input. And again, they're on a 3-game lose streak, but it's really a 4-game lose streak, because then you go and lose to 100 Thieves. 1-6. They're 1-6.
I think they're very deservedly of that 4th place. Beating CLG, but they're losing to 100 Thieves, then they are where they deserve to be.
It's not where we thought they'd be. That's not where we thought they'd be.
No, I thought they'd definitely be top 3 with a dark horse run there.
Absolutely.
So it is disappointing to see, and if they're not going to be able to pull things together in terms of calling out, building better comps, better drafting, and then execution that goes along with that, this is going to be a short playoff for this kind of new EG roster, which is a shame, I think, because I am a big fan of JoJo. I'm a big fan of FBI. They have the talent to be a top team. Yeah. Vulcan is a great support. Someday is very reliable in top lane. Closer's one of the best junglers. But that's the thing. They're kind of, in a weird way, it seems like EG is worse than the sum of their parts.
Yeah. But they got to figure their shit out, because this is now 0-4, as I said, 1 out of the last 6. Like, that's not the kind of performances you want to be having going into playoffs.
I always talk about the momentum that you're taking into a playoffs. Yeah. How are you doing? 100 Thieves bring you a lot of momentum, a lot of positive energy, and winners have a clutch mentality and a winner's mentality, and they need to have that mentality that they can win. And I think once you win, you have that and you realize it, and then you continually are a team, continually win. You also have teams that don't have that mentality, and they crumble and they fall apart.
It's self-fulfilling.
And this is where going into playoffs, it's so important to have that positive atmosphere, that atmosphere where you're feeling confident that you can take on the best teams and that you're figuring things out. EG, I could see them very much imploding and actually losing to CLG. CLG has got the vibes, should we say?
They have vibes,
as the youth says.
I mean, if they weren't going up against anyone other than C9, I'd give them a very good chance of winning their first round matchup.
CLG has that momentum behind them.
The other thing that was worth just mentioning, we need to talk quickly about the Golden Guardians. Yet again, now Golden Guardians is on a 3-game losing streak. You know, they kind of barely hold on to their to playoffs. Again, this is a team where it's like, if I could swap any team out for any team in, I would totally put Team Liquid in for the Golden Guardians, just based on how they're playing and performing. I think it'd be a much more compelling matchup, which is kind of crazy to say. Here we were a couple weeks ago,
I know,
really confident on Golden Guardians, like betting.
They were doing really well.
Golden Guardians.
They were doing really well.
I mean, to be fair, right? Usually when this happens, like, kind of fade my pick in this case. Like, don't read too much into it. They get a week off, right? So they kind of can scrim a little bit. Maybe they'll get Team Liquid on the phone and say, "Hey, can we scrim together or something? Because we got to figure this shit out."
Org has failed to have a winning record in the regular season for something like 11 splits in a row. Yeah. It is insane. And the thing is, what's crazy about it is they've had good teams, but they always seem to hit a point where they just rack up some losses. I'm not convinced that those 3 losses mean they'll be bad in playoffs. Like you said, if I'm a EG, if I'm a CLG, I'm very happy to be matching up against them, 100 Thieves. If I'm a Golden Guardians, I may be hoping I'm getting overlooked. All right, so the playoffs. So we kick off with 2 matches, Flyquest versus 100 Thieves and CLOUD9 versus CLG. These are pretty lopsided matches. Yep. I think there is some value here. You highlighted 100 Thieves money line. Yeah. Do you really believe in the upset?
To me, at this point, that's not even an upset. Like, I know the odds suggest it is. This is a best of 5.
It's 3.0 odds.
Well, it's come down since I put it in there. Now it's only 2.98. Okay. So people are onto it. right? They know.
Yep.
They know. The people.
The people.
We know. 2.98. It's a trajectory thing. 100 Thieves like
Sure.
this. Flyquest. I'm not going
The
like
other one,
this,
not so
but
good.
like
Yeah.
it's more like.
Yeah.
And so
They still came second.
and they still came second.
I did a video on this. I think there's a lot of issues.
And by the way, lovely video. Great
Thank
shorts.
you. Appreciate them. So I'll throw them up. One of them is about Vikla and his performance. He's been getting shaky and I think exposed a lot more. The other one is that they need to bring Winston back. The team just looks worse with Isla. He looks uncoordinated. The team looks uncoordinated with him. Prince and him are performing worse in lane. And also Isla's just getting caught out a lot. And, whilst KDA isn't everything, Winston just had a much better KDA in the 9 games he played compared to the 10 games, what's his name played. So with that in mind, I think Flyquest has some clear things that they need to fix. I do agree that if they don't fix them, maybe 100 Thieves has a shot. But realistically, I'll also say,
all right,
they've lost 4 games.
Right. Well, let me. So you don't think they're going to lose 3?
And a bunch of those were to CLOUD9. So I'm not.
You don't think they're going to lose? Yeah, 2 of them were. You don't think they're going to lose the next 3? What I will say is, here would be my stack. Okay. Over 4.5 at 3.08. Love that.
Yep.
Plus 1.5 for 100 Thieves at 1.99 now. Earlier it was 2.07, so I really like that. And I'd still put a taste on the 100 Thieves money line.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. I think that's.
I just like there's also just no value on Flyquest unless you think they're gonna smash at like a -1.5.
I do like the plus 1.5. I think that's decent. I actually really like the 3-1 call on Flyquest. That's the bet I would probably take. Is actually scoreline 3-1. I really doubt this is a 3-0. It could be a 3-2, but I suspect it's going to be a 3-1.
All right. Well, when Thieves win 3-1 at 6.86. You know who to call.
Then we know exactly who's laughing there. But yeah, I would basically look at a 3-1 hedged with like a plus 1.5 or a plus 1.5 hedged with a 3-1, whichever. Sure. I did look at the over 4.5. I mean, maybe you take that actually over the plus 1.5, or you could throw that. Maybe you do 3-1, hedge it with the over 4.5, and then throw plus 1.5 for profit. I think that's the way you do it. That's probably the best way to do it.
Yeah, but you're picking the wrong team to go 3-1. That's your problem.
What? We'll see.
100 Thieves, baby. I'm back in. I'm
friendly. I'm happy to do a friendly wager. Happy to do a friendly wager if we want.
If you want to give me 2-1 odds,
me.
I will happily take your wager.
I'm not doing this. Why are you always looking for this edge? I know you lost a lot of bets to us, but you don't suddenly start to get 2-1 odds all the time.
That's what the odds are actually saying.
Yeah, but I'm not a bookie. Well, that's the thing. And so that's not how it works. Friendly wagers do not work with 2-1. I'll give you 2.5.
That's how my friends work.
No, I don't believe that either. So, all right. Next match, Cloud9 versus CLG. So we were saying this, CLG's on the up and up, but at the same time, you know what? Cloud9 finished this split really strong. It just looked good.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, right? We kind of like didn't even mention Cloud9 in our recap, just because like they're just good. They're just like, they go and beat Flyquest in the tiebreaker. They beat them earlier in the week, like a 2-0 week on just Flyquest alone. And like, what's there to say about this team? This team's just absolutely crushing it. And as great as CLG is playing compared to the other teams, it's like, I think 3.51 is honestly, it should be a little bit better. Like, you should probably get like 4 odds. Like, it's honestly not enough value on CLG in my opinion.
Unfortunately, I just don't give CLG much hope. I know you highlighted the -1.5. I actually like the -2.5 and the -1.5.
Do we want to put any stock in Friday's match where CLG beat Cloud9?
No. Cloud9 was in. CLG's on a ripper.
But at that point, Cloud9 says if we win this one game, then we don't have to go to a tiebreaker.
Yeah, but did they actually not want to go to a tiebreaker?
I don't know. The more times you have to play,
the psychological element of beating your opponent.
Yeah, I think right now though, the more times you have to play the other best team, like you have to show them stuff.
Sure.
So I don't know. If it was B&B, I would have tried to beat CLG, not have to go to the tiebreaker. I don't know. I think it's interesting. I think that it doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot, but I think it just means like, do I see a Cloud9 3-0? No.
Oh, I can. I think CLG had momentum with them. I think they are. CLG has this sometimes where they get the right draft, they're playing well, things go their way, and they just win. And I think that is really what happened.
Okay.
I think Cloud9 is coming in very focused. They want to win. They want to show they are back-to-back champs.
Yep.
And this is why I like the -2.5. It's a 3.1 odds. They're good odds. I would put a small amount on that. Then I would probably put maybe 1 unit, maybe 2.5 units on -1.5 at 1.62. I can get it, so that's decent. And then actually the one I would really say is a very good bet. And I don't have the odds for this. I couldn't find them. I had to look at a few different books. Over 23.5, maybe 24.5. You can push that. You want to look, I would say, if I can get 1.8, that's what I'm looking for. So if 23.5 gives me 1.8, I'd be happy with that. If it's 24, okay, maybe I go for that. Kills. Yeah, over 23.5, over 24.5 kills. And a big part of kills is dependent on how the other team plays. Great thing about CLG,
kill hungry.
They love to fight, and they will keep fighting, and Cloud9 loves to fight. I had a look at the last 5 or so games. Basically, every single one of them went up to 30 kills. I mean, or more. There was one CLG game that didn't hit over 21 kills, but every other one was basically, I'm pretty sure was like the next lowest one was 24, and then all the rest were 30 or above.
It feels like CLG are the BDS of the of NA.
Yeah, a much worse team again, I would say.
We love BDS on this podcast.
We love BDS. Especially after
had
a really good series this morning.
Astralis win.
Yeah,
electric.
It was a good win. It's definitely entertaining in the LEC at the moment. So that's basically all I have. I mean, obviously we don't have that much. I'm just putting up the bracket. So loser of Flyquest and 100 Thieves will play Golden Guardians. Mm-hmm. That's 100 Thieves. So if we say 100 Thieves against Golden Guardians, or Flyquest versus Golden Guardians, and then CLG up versus EG. Yep. I think Golden Guardians is probably the loser either way there. It's hard for me at this stage to really see them beating either team. I would probably put that as a -1.5 for the other team.
I agree.
I think that's probably a good line. Then looking over at EG, if EG does go up against CLG, I actually think that's a banger of a match. And I'd be looking at over 4.5, over 3.5. I'd be looking at +1s. We'll have to see what the odds are on all of that, but even potentially a money line.
I feel like they're going to pick EG as a favorite, and CLG is going to be a delicious option.
That's what I mean. CLG could be really good odds there, and you could throw something like a +1.5 or +2.5 on CLG, and maybe you're getting some decent odds on that. So
correct me if I'm wrong. If C9 loses to CLG, though, C9 would play Golden Guardians, correct? They play the next day?
No.
No matter what?
No. If C9 loses, they play against EG.
Okay. I thought it was one of those scenarios where like the 2 teams that lose, the best ranked team from the regular season plays the worst team.
It just no. It just
so that it's just matched up. Flyquest 100 Thieves
it's just matched up.
Will be against Golden Guardians. I said it here first. I think the best chance that Golden Guardians of beating their matchup is if it is against Flyquest. I think I could see. I really could. Like, I shit you not, I could see Flyquest going 0-2 this weekend.
I mean, like, look, if Flyquest loses to 100 Thieves, then
they're in real danger of losing.
There's a massive implosion there. My issue there is that they still have barely lost.
I know, but they're
that many matches. So they would basically have to lose as many matches, more. They would have to lose more matches this weekend than they have in the entire split, and I find that hard to believe.
It's a reasonable thing to say. All I'm saying, I could see it. This team, this flight.
I don't know who's kidnapped you and replaced you with a clone, but reasonable.
This flight
are not words that should be coming out of BigMoneyBlivs' mouth.
Flyquest is not playing the way they were earlier in the season when they were just freaking crushing teams.
Yeah, but I agree with you.
But neither is Golden I know.
And this is where I'll bring up the Isla Winston video that I made, where I kind of break that down. Yeah. However, they still only lost 4 games. and 2 of those were to Cloud9.
Yep.
So,
all right.
It was a fun split. I think it started off slow, and then we had a lot of teams kind of find their groove near the end of the split. You know, we're seeing TL, TSM, 100 Thieves, CLG, Golden Guardians, EG, kind of all vying, like who's going to make playoffs, who's not. It was really fun to see, and I think these teams are coming in with the right energy for playoffs and should make it entertaining.
Look, I think it was fun seeing 2 of the kind of bigger name teams struggling, and it was fun to see one of them kind of claw their way out of it. Look, we're going to have 2 teams this year from the LCS make it to MSI, which I am extremely excited about. You heard it here first, folks. I'm picking Cloud9 and 100 Thieves.
We'll see. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we will have the LEC episode out in a couple of days. Otherwise, check out our channel for a couple of shorts, and look forward to seeing you in the matches. You can like, subscribe, and find a link to our Discord down below. But apart from that, thanks for supporting us, tuning in, and we'll see you soon. Bye, everyone.
Toodaloo.